Can you talk about cold plunging?
Sure.
Should women be doing it? What are the mistakes that we're making? What's the difference between men and women and cold plunging?
So inherently, women don't need as cold. So
Thank you.
I
We
know.
don't?
No.
Why?
When we're looking at stress response, because that's how I view all of the environmental and exercise things, is what kind of stress it puts on the body. When a woman gets into ice cold or cold water and gets in there, it invokes such a severe, strong stress response, much stronger than a male's response, that her body goes into more of a shutdown phase where it invokes a sympathetic drive and it doesn't create the metabolic changes that we see with men. If you were to take a woman and put her in 15 or 16 degrees Celsius, which is around that 55 degree mark, she'll end up with the same responses that a man has because it's not as severe shock to a woman's body as it is for a man's. Why is that? Because we have more body fat. So we tend to vasodilate and vasoconstrict first for controlling our temperature. Women do better in the heat.
Okay, talk to me about this.
Okay, so when we look at sauna exposure, women can tolerate heat a lot more than men. A woman can sit in there, sit up high, 20 minutes or so, not sweating yet, absorbing heat, vasodilate, it's great. So we're heating ourselves. Our body's responding to it by what we call heat shock protein responses. So these little proteins that will uncouple and then recouple and be better for it. So it's creating a whole cellular change that then is like, okay, now we have better responses within the muscle. The muscle can use glucose a lot better, can use fat a lot better. We're also increasing blood flow to the brain. We're also improving our blood vessels so they respond to constriction and dilation a lot faster, which is important as we get older and hit perimenopause. We start having blood pressure problems. And it also allows us to hit higher temperatures on the outside, so like summer times and things, without having an undue stress. When you're in the sauna sitting there, it takes time for the body to heat up because of our thermoregulatory differences between what men do when they get in and they start sweating profusely, and then they get dehydrated and they don't have time to adapt as well to the heat as women do because we vasodilate first and then we start sweating.
So if you have access to a sauna, do you recommend that women sit in a sauna for the health benefit?
Yeah, I do. If we are doing 10 to 15 minutes twice a week, bare minimum, you get health benefits. Better cardiovascular health, so better blood flow, better blood pressure. We have metabolic responses, so we have better blood glucose control, better fatty acid metabolism. So your body's like, I'm going to use more fat as a fuel.
Like meaning you're going to burn more fat if you sit in a sauna?
You will use the circulating fat as a fuel instead of storing it. Yeah.
So there's some great information shared in there. There's also some things that fly under the radar. One, it is well known that women tolerate heat better. I was once watching a documentary and it talked about the fact that all the little characters all dressed up in these strange costumes in Star Wars that are like aliens from different planets are almost always women because men cannot handle the heat of being dressed up in those heavy costumes while under the lighting because it gets very hot and men just can't take it. So there's that truth. I think where we need to be careful though is realizing that she's citing research, and having not only been involved in research study design at multiple times in my career, but also having studied thousands of research studies and spending a lot of time investigating how research needs to be done so that it's effective, I found, unfortunately, a huge percentage of research studies are very poorly designed, but people that read them often only read the abstracts and then believe the outcomes as though it was a fact. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. There's thousands of articles out there, especially from years ago. Now that we've gotten better at study design, we don't see quite as much of this, but there used to be literally a consensus among medical doctors, and I confronted this over and over again in my career, that weightlifting and exercise would not help back pain. And I found this baffling because I was able to use corrective exercise to alleviate or completely eliminate back pain probably 95 times out of 100, if not more. And so I looked into all this research, and one of the things that I noticed consistently across the board in every single study that showed that was that the study design was completely and utterly incorrect. They were not using the right reps, sets, loads, tempos. They were not using the right types of exercise to have a transition into functional movement. They were almost always doing isolated exercise such as Med-X machines or Nautilus machines or some other thing, probably because they were getting money from them. And so you look at the research, and if you just believed what the research said, you would do like a lot of doctors did and give up on exercise for healing back issues, which would be a huge mistake. So when we're looking at research based on how women do versus men, or how women do in general with a cold plunge, we have to ask ourselves, how did they establish a control group, or sometimes what is called normalization, which means what is the normal response to a healthy person? So if you went to, around the world looking for very healthy, fit women and did a comprehensive evaluation on them for blood pressure and all the common biomarkers of health and optimal physiology, and established what a normal healthy woman is, and then exposed them to the cold plunge and monitored their physiological responses, and compared that with a broad group of women, you would have a normal reference group. You would have something to compare to. But one of the problems in research worldwide today is it's almost impossible to find anybody healthy. Whenever you look at research, for example, on core control, you see there's no way for them to normalize these studies, because they don't actually investigate all the things that could shut the core off, which is the inner abdominal wall, the stabilizing muscles of the spine and core. So you get a bunch of research that ends up being absolutely bogus because you're using screwed up people to begin with. Now, some of the things that we would have to consider is, right off the bat, what percentage of these women had adrenal fatigue? A couple of symptoms of adrenal fatigue you can see right in the physiologist that's talking. She's got bags under her eyes, swelling under her eyes. That's a classic reaction to kidney stress and adrenal stress. If you get up from a chair and you get dizzy, that's a sign that you're not producing enough adrenaline and cortisol to upregulate your blood pressure, because as you stand up, blood, like water, falls due to gravity. And so if you don't increase blood pressure quickly enough, then the blood comes out of the brain and people get dizzy standing up and can even pass out. When you have adrenal fatigue, you cannot mount an effective response. And as she said, when you get cold, you will get a sympathetic response. But if the adrenals are weak, you cannot produce an effective sympathetic response. Then we have to consider the fact that when you have end-stage adrenal exhaustion, you'll go into hypothyroidism and the body will already be cold. Therefore, exposure to more cold will actually be a more severe reaction to the person experiencing that, because the body's cold to begin with and it actually needs heat. So the end all and be all of all of this is that you have to be very careful believing this kind of stuff for the reasons I've just mentioned, and many more that I don't have time to get into. But ultimately the test is shut your head off, listen to your body, get in the water, or at least put your hand in it and give yourself a chance to feel how your body reacts to it, not your mind. I have seen countless women in my career who far outperform men in the cold plunge. This is undoubtedly true. They have great capacity to handle cold. But then I've also seen men and women that are very, very fragile for all the kinds of reasons I've developed. So at the end of the day, remember, the best test of all is to let your body tell you and listen to it. And if the cold is something that your body wants, it'll feel good to you. And if your body doesn't want it, it will give you a stress reaction and you will want to jump out. So consider these factors. Let your body be your guide. Be careful with science.